I'm joined now by Rory Stewart, the Tory MP who chairs the Commons Defence Select Committee. And in Washington, we're joined by Kurt Volker, the former United States Permanent Representative to NATO. Mr. Volker, let me come to you first. How should America respond to this latest atrocity?
Well, I think to choose the words of President Obama, we need a strategy. We need to actually think about what are the appropriate goals that we need to have to wrap up what is truly an amazingly brutal, evil force in Syria and in Iraq that is destabilizing the region, threatening allies in the region, and a grave threat to our own societies. I think in order to set a goal of eliminating ISIS, we're going to have to then work with a lot of regional players, especially Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Turkey, Jordan, the Iraqi forces, Kurdistan, in order to go after ISIS. I think we want to minimize the degree to which there are direct Western boots on the ground, but it's going to take a concerted effort, which will require American leadership to help pull it together, and it's going to require a willingness to put military force in play.
Rory Stewart, what should the British reaction be?
Well, Britain needs to follow very, very carefully this American debate. If President Obama is currently saying that he doesn't have a strategy, we have to be very cautious. But the key question is this very different from what we dealt with in 2007, 2008? Is this Islamic State fundamentally different from Al-Qaeda Iraq? If it isn't, what are the options that we think we have?
But it probably is. It looks like it's going to control a big chunk of territory. Al-Qaeda never did that. It was guests of Afghanistan.
So Al-Qaeda Iraq controlled a lot of the same areas of Western Iraq, and we pumped in over $100 billion US a year. We had 100,000 troops on the ground, the US and its allies, and yet 4 years later it's come back again. So the problem the president's facing is that he's looking at dealing with a bigger threat with fewer resources, and he's trying to do it without boots on the ground.
Kurt Volker, but exactly what should Mr. Obama's strategy be? He says he hasn't got one. Tell him what it should be. Should he, for example, extend the bombing, which actually seems to be quite effective against IS in Iraq? Should he extend that into Syria, where they're also based?
Yeah, well, I think bombing alone is not going to be sufficient, but it is a necessary part. I think you need to have an approach towards supporting a moderate rebellion inside Syria to try to bring about a change of regime that is going to get Assad out of power, which is part of what has fomented this ISIS rebellion to begin with.
That's not going to happen anytime soon, you know that.
Army. Well, and then you need to go after ISIS itself. The bigger threat at the moment is ISIS, and we need to be going after that on both sides of the border. ISIS does not respect any differences of the border. Assad attacked on the other side of the border. The Iraqi army is prepared to do its part inside Iraq, but that is a very weak army, so they're going to need that additional support. But then we also need the states of the region, and I again emphasize the key Sunni states that we have worked with in the past, or sometimes call them as allies, but Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Turkey, Jordan, in order to create a regional framework for getting control back over these territories. And as Mr. Stewart was just saying also, the Sunni tribes inside Iraq were the key to upending Al-Qaeda in Iraq before, and I think they will be the key to upending ISIS as well. I don't think they relish being ruled by this medieval group.
I mean, Mr. Volker makes a point that will resonate with a lot of people in the West, that why aren't those in the region who have most to fear from IS doing more about it? But do we have any evidence that Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, Jordan are going to get involved in this?
This is the big fundamental question. So, of course, ideally, yes, Saudi, Turkey, Iran, others will be motivated. But so far they haven't been.
No.
The fighters are often moving through Turkey. There's evidence that some of the funding going into the Islamic State has come out of the Gulf states. We have a hope that they're going to feel that these people are a danger to themselves. But our experience, unfortunately, across the world is regional states often find that difficult to believe. And so they will make proper statements about it, but actually getting them to do something is going to be more difficult.
Mr. Volker, the President has been remarkably reluctant to get involved in this. At every opportunity he's put one step forward and then tried to take 2 steps back. But in that, is he perhaps reflecting the mood of the American people, that they don't want to get involved?
Well, it's always hard to judge that. I think the President is reflecting his own instincts, his political calculus. He wants to be the president that pulls the U.S. out of wars and doesn't send the military in as a way of engaging the United States in conflict. The American American people, I think, indeed fatigued by the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, but at the same time terrified by what they see on television with these beheadings, with the threats against the United States from all of these Islamist groups. And frankly, we see a chaotic situation around the world now, whether it's Russia and Ukraine, or whether it's in the Sahel, whether it is in Iraq and Syria that we're talking about now. It seems to be spinning out of control. And so I think the Americans are actually also looking for a strategy that they can believe in that's going to help try to keep the country safe.
And the British people are war-weary as well. They hate what is happening, but they have no appetite for deep involvement beyond airstrikes, if that.
That's true. And it's also true, as the ambassador said, that we have a lot of experience in trying to deal with these kind of insurgencies. But the things that the United States and Britain feels are necessary, an effective state in Baghdad, a good regional solution, these things so far don't exist.
No. So the chances of a caliphate this time next year?
Well, effectively, Andrew, what they've set up is something pretty close to that already in eastern Syria and western Iraq.
We need to leave it there. Rory Stewart in London.